Hello there, many thanks for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kukumlimle on digital address GA 0992539. Our top stories this hour. Police administration warns it will not entertain any breach of peace as it prepares to deploy more than 62,000 fully armed joint forces across the country for next month's presidential and parliamentary election. We'll be hearing from the IGP. Meanwhile, tension begins to build at Amenfi East constituency in the Western region following what the NDC says is an assassination attempt on its candidates there. And also coming up, Electoral Commission boss Jean Mensah and National Security Minister Albert Kandapar have been summoned to Parliament for questioning on preparations to ensure a free and violence-free election on 7 December. We'll also tell you about officials of the NCCE and NMC who will also be appearing to respond to questions. We'll take you to Parliament on this issue. My name is Gifty Andropia. This is The Pulse, and I want you to be my guest. Pulse is brought to you by Digni Lou, affordable and dignified sanitation. Please be my guest. Let's go through the details of today's stories. Now, workers of the Tema oil refinery are calling for the removal of the company's board of directors. They say the board has failed in its supervisory role as the oil refinery is unable to make proper investments to generate revenue. Chairman of the Workers' Union, Bright Adongo, and Chairperson of the Ghana Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, GTPCU, Sewa Duncan Williams, have been speaking with JoyNews.
We're having issues with our board. We terminate the board because the board, instead of exercising certain oversight responsibility over management in terms of policies and things to do to change the cash flow situation of the refinery, the board have not been able to exercise it. Look, the workers went out of their way because it was not part of their job description. Partnered management brought proposals that you don't need, some of them, you don't even need a resource to implement them. That could change the cash flow structure of the refinery. And these are things that we have control over. For the past 2 years, the board was brought into the picture to the extent that it came down to the level of committees to check some of the committees' report. And clearly, they realized the potentials that could come from those reports. Yet, they never exercised their oversight responsibility on management to make sure that check and balances in terms of timelines that needed to be exerted on management so that we can get the needed resource is executed. Look, we are talking about board. You know, we are in a related industry with BOST. And you talk about the BOST board and you compare to the TOR board. The eminent members within the TOR board, it is not something you can even talk about. Yet this BOST board was able to lobby government, lobby the presidency, lobby parliament, and get the BOST margin increased and passed. It means that BOST financed. BOST is doing buy and sell. Tema oil refinery is a production economy. For these 4 years, this board have not been able to secure us capital to recapitalize the refinery. Total failure to the company. Look, we have parastatals that are affected by the COVID. Their boards have moved and made sure that the impact is managed. Look, what has this board done in that respect? They have done nothing. This is the board that comes to sit at first-class hotels, take their monthly allowances, take their sitting allowances, take all the expenses. Since they took over, when we look at the indicators, and as at now, the indicators have gone negative. The board have delivered virtually no value. If we will say any value, it's a negative value they have delivered to the refinery. So the workers of TOR have lost trust in the board. And we are calling upon the president to remove the TOR board with immediate effect.
I'm Sewa Duncan Williams, a chairperson of the GTPCW of TUC. Okay. The board has failed us in so many ways. Under this board, we are not able to pay our PF. That's the Provident Fund. Under this board, we have not been able to pay our SNET, GRA, water, electricity, and Tier 2 and all other things we can talk about, and we think that they have failed us. Pensioners are home crying for their money, and this board, and that this board, that this thing is happening. What we are asking for is to dissolve the board. We don't need them, and if they dissolve the board and the management don't set up, we will come for them as well. Because if the board is incompetent and we are calling the president to dissolve it, then the management also should set up and do what they have been paid to do.
No, sir, so those were some of the agitated workers there. You're still watching The Pulse. Let me do a very quick break here. When I return, we'll tell you everything security related to the elections. We'll go to the police headquarters and hear from the IGP on the measures they're putting in place and their strategy, essentially, as far as the election is concerned. And then we'll go to Parliament, because what we know is that there have been some summons. We are told that the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, and other security chiefs are being summoned to Parliament to talk about election security. We'll bring you more on that as well. Most importantly, we would love to hear from you. So send us a WhatsApp on our numbers, which we'll be putting on our screens when we return shortly from this break. Welcome back to the show. This is The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando, up here. Now, more than 62,000 fully armed personnel will be on the ground during next month's presidential and parliamentary elections. Men from the police, military, BNI, national security, immigration, and other sister security agencies are teaming up to ensure the elections are without breach of the peace. IGP James Opombuenu, who is also head of the Election Security Task Force, has been addressing a news conference today at which he promises a ruthless clampdown on troublemakers.
62,794 security personnel from the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Fire Service, the Ghana Prison Service, the Ghana Immigration Service, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and the Ghana Armed Forces are being deployed for the elections. All the personnel that I've mentioned will be in their regular uniforms, with the exception of officers from the Criminal Investigation Department and of the Police Service and the Bureau of National Investigations, who will remain invisible in court. We will adopt a 4-tier approach of starting duties of policing the ballot at all the 33,367 polling stations, revised to 40,000 recently, and 275 collation centers. Patrols, rapid response, and standby forces to provide swift action when the need arises. Ladies and gentlemen, personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces, together with operational units of the Ghana Police Service, who will be fully armed, will execute the patrol and rapid response and standby duties, while the static duties are performed by the police and the 4 security agencies that I've already mentioned. For identification purposes, a special armlet will be worn by officers deployed for election duties on election day. We shall also carry on with our everyday duties of preventing crime, protecting lives and property, apprehending of offenders, and generally maintaining law and order, so that people can continue to go about their various lawful activities in a safe and secure environment. Ladies and gentlemen, personnel of the Bureau of National Investigations will continue with their usual duties of complementing intelligence efforts to deal with general incidents of crime, vigilantism, or terrorism that could spring up before, during, or after the elections. These arrangements will help us to arrest any person or group of persons who attempt to obstruct the election process, intimidate or harass people, or do anything to disturb the peace, security, and stability of this country.
Well, I'll be having some analysis with some security and analysts who will be joining me. But before that, the police is today updating the flashpoints identified. We were told about over 4,000 were identified. Today, more than 6,000 of them are known so far. Here is the IGP on the service's readiness to deal with this situation.
On the issue of resources required for our work, agencies forming the Election Security Task Force are equipped and ready to do our job. I have visited all the 16 regions of this country with a team to see for myself the readiness and capability of the police regional commands to lead other sister security agencies in the regions to police the ballot. During these visits, I also interacted with officers of all ranks on a variety of subjects, including how they are psychologically prepared for the task. And I'm satisfied that we are ready. The few gaps witnessed from the visits have been filled. However, a few remain which we are yet to fill before election day, and I can assure you that that will be done. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching all polling stations as potential flag points. However, we have identified 6,178 flash points nationwide. The flash points were decided based on a number of factors, such as incidents recorded in previous elections, this year's voters registration exercise, and crime rates and other factors relating to those centers. As a result, our approach in these areas will be slightly different from other areas. Saturated patrols and standby forces may be visible to prevent any mishap. Hotspots and strategies for handling them will be reviewed based on emerging trends or issues. Ladies and gentlemen, our security services have been working closely with the Electoral Commission to make our planning for the entire electoral process feasible. Our priority areas include providing security for the commissioners, the polling stations, the collation centers, the electoral materials, the offices, logistics, holding facilities, candidates, voters, observers, and reporters.
Ask the police on their preparedness to deal with this, including their psychological preparedness. They also talk about their priorities. But we're told that motorbikes on that day will not be allowed more than 100 meters away from polling stations. But why? Here is the IGP with an explanation.
The motorbikes. I don't want to say that the people should not use motorbikes at all. But at least about 100 meters from the polling station, you cannot bring a motorbike. 100 meters from the polling station. So that's for the guidance of all. 100 meters from a police station, you don't bring a motorbike there. Because if you come there, we'll prevent you from coming closer. The reason is that most of the time, people who want to snap ballot boxes use motorbikes. I can assure you that in some cases, there will be less than 50 minutes. I anticipate that we should do less than 50 minutes. But of course, you have already been giving the answer to the other one. The assurance I can give is that as soon as the incidents occur, we will have patrol teams in the area, rapid response teams. So as soon as the incident occurs, the rapid response teams will be there. Arms proliferation. We are working with the Small Arms Commission. This morning, I sent an officer to the Western region, where the Small Arms Commission is undertaking an exercise. So we are in touch with them to try to deal with the small arms, the light arms situation in our country. they have the mandate to deal with it. When it comes to the criminal domain, then we will deal with it. So we are in collaboration with them.
Like I said, I have some analysts to help us have a talk about what the police is, telling us is their plan. Joining me is a security analyst, Adib Sani. Adib, thank you very much for your time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gifty.
Yeah, I also have on Zoom Nanaya Akwada, who's a safety analyst. He's also with the Bureau of Public Safety, joining us. Hello, Nanaya.
Thank you. Hi, Gifty.
Okay, so let me begin with, I know, Nanaya, that you have already put out your concerns in the public domain, but let me begin with your brief initial assessment of this plan that has been rolled out, at least the ones we know, by the IGP. Let me start with you, Adib Sani.
Well, first of all, good afternoon to my colleague, Nana Akwada. I trust you're doing well.
I'm great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Gifty, the police is playing by the book. In fact, what is currently on paper as announced by the IGP is very consistent with best international practices so far as ensuring security is concerned. But like I always say, what is on paper is usually different from what is on the ground. Some few weeks ago, the police talked about some flashpoints in some areas, including Odododio, which I understand had 50 flashpoints. But that notwithstanding, proper mechanisms or safeguard mechanisms was not put in place yet. That is why we had these incidents of violence. But let me quickly add that the IGP talking with the Small Arms Commission to do something about small arms, I'm sorry to announce that it's too late to talk about small arms at this time. And currently, according to the Small Arms Commission, there are well over 1.2 million Ghanaians who are armed. Unfortunately, last year, only 40,000 of them renewed their licenses. Now we're talking about proliferation of arms from other parts of the continent and even the local gun manufacturing industry in the country. I wonder what practical measure can be put in place for these arms to be retrieved. Unfortunately, we have been talking about this for some time now and nobody seemed to listen to us. Now we've gotten to the election and we're now talking about it. No, I think it is too late. But it is also worth recognizing that the measures put in place currently by the police is in good faith. Let me give them praise where it is due. I wish to commend the IGP and his team for a good work done so far. I'm particularly excited that they listened to some of us who have spoken vociferously about the movements of parliamentary candidates from one polling station to another. For crying out loud, you are not EC officials. It is not your work to move from one polling station to another to ensure the right things are done.
Right.
Already, there are political party representatives there.
Yeah. And that's a point that the IGP made very clearly today. I mean, it's not in the sound bites the clips that we played, but it's a point that he made that candidates will not be, he didn't say will be disallowed, but he says they are highly encouraged not to, be patrolling the polling centers. I mean, let me bring you in here, Nanaya. You have raised concerns about the parameters being provided by the police as far as the presence of motorbikes, for example, and how far camera or media organizations with cameras can go. Let's hear it. I think you are muted.
Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Forgive me. Gifty, I think the presser by the IGP and the Election Security Task Force is very commendable. Coming at this time, at least, we are appreciating some of the ground rules moving into December 7th. We wish to commend the IGP for that. And personally, I was very elated seeing my IGP, taking up questions from journalists, single-handedly. I think it's very, very well commendable. We rarely get IGPs who are this on top of their job. At least for this session, I must commend him. But we have issues with some of the things they rolled out. The IGP did not appear very well organized when he was responding to the motorbike issue, as in to what range, how far, how deep can a motorbike travel into the polling station. And he mentioned on top of it, said 100 meters. And that is what we question, because look, we need to be deliberate, precise, and specific with some of these things, because we are going to have security men who will be there on that day in that charged atmosphere, wanting to make sure that we have zero occurrences. And we don't want to move into such a space with ambiguities at all. So we said that the IGP must come again on his 100-meter radius perimeter thing that he said. It's very important because there's a lot of thinking that should go into, first of all, determining what will actually be a safe zone for the polling station. Assuming gun-wielding guys drive past by with an AK-47 and they are on motorbikes, 100 meters is a cool chop for them, because AK-47 goes beyond 300 meters. So what really went into the 100-meter determination? We think the IGP must look at it and possibly review or revise the 100-meter determination as safe perimeter zones for the polling stations.
In fairness to the IGP, because I was there covering this particular press conference, what I would say is that this was a question. It was not part of the initial address. It was the question that was asked by a media organization, and then he provided that response. So you're saying that the 100 meters is close enough for people to shoot a gun. It did indicate that this plan will be reviewed as we go along. So hopefully what you're saying will be a part of their consideration. But there is a point about security personnel going to be deployed to be given what he called armlets on that day. I am interested to take your thoughts on that. What he says is that this is supposed to identify security personnel who will be working on that day as part of the 62,000 plus that will be deployed, so that we don't have a repetition of Ayawaso West Bogon, where people showed up and people didn't know who they were because of the apparel they had. Mr. Sani, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know whether it was on this network I spoke about the issue of vigilantism, and now they are becoming officialized. As a matter of fact, vigilante groups now act in official capacity, like it happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. So this has created a lot of mistrust. And so I think that this is just a safeguard measure to, as it were, ensure that nobody at the polling station, especially the political party representatives, ask questions about the legitimacy of certain persons who perhaps would be manning security at those areas. So this is just to ensure that everybody is at ease and nobody would have to, as it were, ask someone questions about whether he should be there or not, because a lot of incidents over the past few years has pointed to the fact that there are instances where certain people who have no business at the polling station come there, and in the end, they foment trouble, like it happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. But let me make a follow-up on the motorbike issue. I am a body language expert. It was quite obvious that the IGP was not ready for that question. And so I'm sure his 100-meter figure is just an afterthought of some thought, and going into the election, some changes might be made to it. Because I remember some time ago, Boku, motorbikes were outrightly banned. It was only females who could ride, but now that has been lifted because of the incidents of people riding by and firing, rifles. But I understand from his address that he has met some political party representatives.
Yes.
and that they have assured that going into the elections, they would respect the laws, etc. But let us not forget that prior to the 2016 election, there was a similar engagement where the IGP and his, officials met representatives of the various political parties who appended their signature to documents and reaffirmed their commitment to respecting the laws and to dealing with the issues of vigilantism within their fold. Unfortunately, there was no commitment in that regard, and we all witnessed what happened. So I think this should also go beyond just beating them. Going forward, the IGP or the police in general would have to make examples of these trouble causers, because the biggest problem has got to do with the culture of impunity. It's always been talk with little action on the ground. So for people like myself to be convinced that really this IGP, this police regime is very committed to dealing with the issues of security going into this election, we would want to see oblivion of whichever part of the political divide trouble causes come from, to be dealt with rigorously and vigorously with recourse to the law. So at least they prove beyond reasonable doubt that yes, indeed, they are committed.
So on the back of that, we're wrapping up shortly. But on the back of that, I want you to listen to the question that was put to him specifically was about, like you said, making example of some of these people who act with impunity to create a cause election violence. Now, Howard Kumsin, who is member of parliament for Ewutu Senya, is admitted to firing gunshots in July during the registration process. So the media was very interested in what has happened to that particular case, as well as what happened in Ayawaso West Wuogon. Listen to the IGP's response. When we come back, we'll wrap up on that.
You were talking about a certain MP and claiming to have fired. You know, investigation is not a one-day event. Once you start investigations, you have to deal with the issues involved. If there's a firearm involved, one, is the firearm registered? If it's registered, it's in whose name? Two, if there was firing, we verify whether it was that particular firearm that was fired. So it is not just that the event has happened. You arrest the person, put him before court, and the court discharges him. I think Ghanaians deserve better. And they deserve better by waiting on the police to do thorough investigations before we put cases before court. In the case of the, what you are talking about, the Ayawaso West Wuogon, there you see people infiltrated. There has been a commission, there have been recommendations, a white paper has been published, certain things have been done. And on that day, I can assure you that the rapid response team that we have will deal with any situation arising out of people who are not prepared or who are not supposed to be there. Anybody who is not within our setup and he appears will be dealt with by our rapid response teams. So rest assured.
So that's what the IGP says, that the people, if anybody shows up and is not a part of the 62,000 plus that they are working with, they'll be dealt with by their rapid response team. Let's end this conversation with you, my resource persons. I want to bring you in, Nanaya, on this part. Are you satisfied with the response he gives about Madam Howard Kumsin, for example, and what happened? We didn't get any specifics on that case, as it were.
Well, thank you, Gifty. To the extent that we raised issues with Madam Howard Kumsin's, occurrence weeks back when it occurred. I believe that matter should be investigated. We should not confine ourselves to just the fact that she discharged or she, flaunted a firearm in public. We should really understand what sort of threat was facing her and all that before we can make an absolute conclusion on that matter. But to the extent that the IGP commits to ensuring that people who cause trouble or people who apply themselves in trouble during elections day, those people will be brought to book. We want to believe that the IGP is going to walk his talk. We have heard that too many times, and when the time comes for them to strike, they fail to strike.
Right.
And so I want the IGP, aside issuing such warnings, he must also appeal to the House of Parliament, probably through the Speaker, for especially members of Parliament and their followers who normally want to be moving around from place to place in all their suspicions, and also, be talked to so that we can have some peace when election day comes. We must understand that when you are, it's public safety and security 101, that the more the people know, the better. And the more you engage the people, the better you are to find peace when you need it most. And so we believe that what IGP has started by engaging the people and the media, he should go ahead. We want to see him in Parliament, talking to parliamentarians. Right. We want to see him in other places, speaking to the people who matter, so that we can move into this election with a certain knowledge that there will be peace.
Okay. I'll say very big thanks to you. Adib, do make it brief for me.
Okay, in as much as I commend the IGP for the steps they are taking, I would also wish to state without mincing words that the IGP is being dishonest about Hawa Kumson's case.
Why?
For crying out loud, I mean, how long should it take you to confirm whether a firearm is registered? How long would it take you for you to confirm that a bullet was fired from that firearm? For crying out loud, for once, let us be serious. Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? I think there's no commitment whatsoever to dealing with the issue. The Peace Council has spoken about it over and over again, and nobody seems to be taking them seriously. But going forward, it is important the police engages security analysts. On a daily basis, we are on TV, we are on radio. We need to let the people be educated, and that can, to a very large extent, come from us through the media, and I think we need to be engaged.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time and the effort that you put in this one. Thank you so much. Adib Sani there, you saw him right behind him with the Jatike Center there. He's a security analyst there, and I also had Nanaya Wakwada, who's with the Bureau of Public Safety. The very interesting thoughts you've shared with us. We'll be going to Parliament, like Nanaya said. There's also something happening in Parliament as security heads are being summoned. But with the recent violence being recorded in the run-up to the elections, the Christian Council of Ghana has launched a peace campaign that they're calling Say Yes to Peace. It is aimed, of course, at ensuring peace prevails before, during, and after the election. Well, the council has 31 churches of various denominations and 3 Christian organizations under its supervision. So it's very important. Now, they have embarked on a voter and peace education across the country. I have here in the studio the General Secretary of the Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayosi, to talk about this as we get towards the post. First of all, we'd like to find out from him what his initial reaction is to the recent political tension, if you have noticed, being heightened as a result of the violence being recorded, especially what happened, Doc, in Ododo. Welcome and thank you very much for your time.
Can I take off my mask?
Then I'll have to wear mine.
Oh, okay. then I'll keep it on.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Gifty, for having me, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. Yes, my immediate reaction to the Ododo tensions and crisis is that even though the security apparatus have responded to the issue, it is important that some people are singled out for the action and made an example of. In other words, some people must be punished for what happened, so that in the near future, as we go up to the elections, people will not behave in the same way with impunity. It looks like some people are being shielded.
The police said today,
in all this matter.
The police said today that last week Tuesday, they indicated that they had arrested 2 people. Today, they've indicated that they've arrested 5 people, so about 3 more from the 2 that they arrested. But you're making a point that there seems to be some sort of cover-up here. Well, the police seem to be shielding some people. Is it because they have not provided details of the specific people who have been arrested, you think?
It may not be the police that is shielding these persons. Okay. It may be some powers that be, some people with political connections and so on, who are making it impossible to bring some people to book. Because that, you've also mentioned the Howard Kumsin issue.
Yes.
And up to now, we have not really had a clear resolution of that issue. So that is our concern. But I must say that security is a collective responsibility. The first port of call is, of course, the security apparatus, the Ghana Police Service, and we are looking up to them. In fact, they should work hard enough to even preempt what happened at Ododio. We don't expect them to wait until it happens before they react. They must be proactive.
So sorry to cut you there. So today they've been rolling out their plan, which I have just thoroughly discussed with our resource persons. What do you think?
The plan, it looks good on paper.
It looks good on paper.
Yes, I think to preempt something that like what happened at Ododio, we must work with intelligence. It's not just deploying security personnel to the polling stations. We must work with intelligence, the flashpoints, infiltrate the youth and the people the vigilantes who caused all this confusion and try to fish out things before they happen.
Right. Let's talk about the peace campaign.
Yes.
Give us an idea. How is it going to operate, and to what extent will it solve or help deal with this problem, the heightened sense of insecurity that we all feel?
Yeah, the Christian Council of Ghana, as you rightly pointed out, is a 91-year-old organization, and we have been doing advocacy since the beginning. We were very instrumental in the pre-independence movement. We were very vociferous during the military regimes, and we are doing that in the Fourth Republic as well. And with every election, when tensions, as we know, in Ghana rise, we come up with strategies and projects to maintain peace before, during, and after the election, and we are doing the same this year.
Okay, so give us an idea how it would look like. Do we have people from the council going to churches or encouraging your pastors to preach peace, and will it even work?
We have a number of programs. One of them is what we call the Eminent Persons Group of religious persons from across the Christian fraternity, and then also includes the Muslim brothers and sisters.
Okay. And
the Eminent Persons Group engages the major stakeholders as far as election is concerned. So we have had engagements with EC, with political parties, with NCC. We are yet to have an engagement with the media, the security apparatus, and other stakeholders. So that is, and one of the things we try to commit them to is for them to say yes to peace.
Say yes to peace. Yeah. Let's take your final words on what you want people to take away from this conversation. So they've listened to us, they've listened to the IGP. There are a lot of things going through. There's a lot of things going through their mind right now. What do you want them not to forget if they listen to this conversation?
One is that violence doesn't solve any problem. That is. Two is that we are in this boat together. This boat called Ghana. We sink or we float together. We have a common destiny. We must do everything in our power to maintain the peace that we enjoy. And as I said, this is a collective responsibility. We can look up to the security people to help us do that. But we as individuals have that responsibility. So as a Christian Council of Ghana, we are calling on all our members, in fact every citizen, to go out there and vote, but vote in peace. Say yes to peace. And as you asked in the question, we are also talking to our members in the churches. Okay. In fact, we are going to have a big rally coming up on the 28th of November, I believe, where it will be a peace campaign. Okay. Where people are going to pledge, say yes, or commit to peace. And we also call on the political parties to do the same. Okay. Yes, when we get the opportunity. Thank you very much, Gifty.
All right, Doc, thank you so much. I've been talking to Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, who is the leader of the Christian Council, and he says that they are engaging their members on this, but they want you to go out there to vote, but do so in peace and do not be used for anything untoward. Rev, thank you so much for coming.
You're also welcome.
Now, so let's take a few peace messages.
My name is Bishop Samuel Noy Mensah, President of Full Gospel Church International. I commit myself to the Joy FM Peace campaign. Let us vote for peace. Let's stand for peace. We are the hope for Africa when it comes to relations. Do whatever you can to make sure that you will reject violence and stand for peace. Definitely, God is going to see this country through peaceful elections. Don't be scared. Just go and do what you need to do by voting and go back home safely.
My name is Daniel Yawan-Ponsa. I'm the General Manager for Cooperative Transport Association. In this election, I would want that peace, as we are all looking for, we should understand the word peace. Peace means pursue each act carefully every day. Therefore, if all Ghanaians pursue the act in carefulness, there will be the peace that we are looking for. God bless you.
Speaking of peace, the National Democratic Congress candidate for Wassa Menfi East, Nicholas Amankwa, narrowly escaped death this morning when armed men launched an attack on him in his house at Wassa Propon this dawn at about 3 a.m. It is not clear who is behind the attack, but some members of his party managed to foil this attempt before major harm was done. A member of his campaign team, Douglas, gives an account of what happened this dawn.
This dawn, I heard exchange of gunshots, in our house. That's the compound. So I just stood on my bed. And a few minutes later, I heard my mom screaming, "Are you coming to kill Nico? Are you coming to kill Nico?" So I placed a call to the police. And they reported, they told me they would be coming. So I was there and voices were going on and exchange was going on. That's gunshots. So I had access to our back door and I got into the yard of the compound and I had the opportunity to jump over a wall. So I slid over and the police later came. When the police came, I went with them to the house. And I was told by one of my boys, he is using the boys' quarters. He told me that you overheard someone saying that even Atamos was killed. Who is Nico? We are going to kill him tonight.
Well, the candidate, Nicholas Amankwa himself, has been telling his side of the story.
I rushed to Honorable Nicholas's house after receiving a distress call at about 3 a.m. that he was being attacked by armed men. Upon reaching the house, there was a man trying to break his way into the house with a huge stick and others standing by with guns. I heard Nicholas's mother asking why they are attacking his son. They confirmed they had come to kill him. When they spotted me, they tried to shoot me, but I managed to dodge the bullets and called for reinforcement. We started pelting stones at them. When they realized they couldn't control the situation, they escaped with warning shots.
Now, tension is mounting in the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region as residents of the Hausa Line electoral area threaten to fight a businessman claiming ownership of a portion of land serving as a dumping site for the community. The people say they are ready to sacrifice their lives to defend that piece of land. My colleague Anas Sabit has been engaging them.
There is a looming tension in the Techiman Zongo, or the Hausa Line electoral area, concerning the refuse site of this area. There are issues as in someone claiming ownership of a portion of the land. As a result, the youth in this area beefed, and they are ready to face it off with whoever is claiming ownership of this land they say has been in existence for over 100 years. The said individual is not here yet, but earlier he sent in some individuals to come and then instruct some people to leave the area. The youth are not happy with this development, and there's a looming tension in this part of the municipality. I have with me the youth of the area, but I'll be taking the assembly member for the Hausa and Electoral area in the person of Aliyu Adam, popularly known as Se. He will share with me briefly what transpired between himself and then the said individual who is claiming ownership of this particular land. So let me engage Aliyu briefly.
Everything happened yesterday when that businessman who purportedly bought this place came to stop the relocation of containers from the other side of the road to the refuse dump site. So I came and then he confronted me. He threatens me that he so backs up to an extent that he can come to my house, beat me up and leave and nothing will happen. Then I told him that I am here on behalf of the chiefs and the people of Zongo. But he says, and so what? So I went and informed them that this is what happened and this is what is going on, though they know. But the guy has threatened me. So they said, in that case, don't all gathered here this morning so that he should come and threaten them as he did to me. The land belongs to Zongo, and then we are not ready and never ready to forfeit this piece of land to any person, even the government, nobody. And the youth are here for that. And they will be here in the evening, they will be here in the night, and we will be guarding it day in, day out. Any attempt to claim this land, it will be bloodshed.
In support of this development, the leadership of the Techiman Zongo, led by the chiefs, imams, and opinion leaders, held a press conference to state their concerns. Alhaji Mohammed Al-Hassan is an opinion leader in the area.
We in the Zongo cannot sit down to allow this thing to happen, because we rose up and then met our fathers and then our grandfathers, and we know that we haven't any refuse dump apart from this place. So we are actually furious. The whole Zongo has gotten up to defend its right concerning this very issue.
On behalf of the chief of Zongo, Sarkin Zabarma Alhaji Idrisu Musa called on the one claiming ownership of the land to resign his decision or face thereof.
Zaman mun nan abin da ya zama da mu kenan domin kare filin mu.
We are here to protect our land and we will never forfeit it for any individual. So that is why we are here today.
Timani mabibi nadane se nisika kakra se we ewani samno wabetimi dia huna Zongo sifo.
The said individual should not be deceived by his words. Zongo residents cannot be threatened. They will face it off day and night with our lives.
Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Going down to less than a month to the elections, now the New Patriotic Party has fulfilled 56.77% of its 2016 campaign promises. That's the verdict of Imani Ghana's final report card on delivery by the government. There is more in this report by Matilda Gavi.
The report focused on the economy, governance, human capital investment, infrastructure, among others. The report card forms part of Imani's critical assessment of political parties' manifestos, aimed at getting voters informed on choices, as well as make political parties accountable to the people. Research consultant for Imani Africa, Dennis Asari, says a lot of progress has been made in the economy, especially with the passage of the Fiscal Responsibility Law to ensure macroeconomic stability. However, government's 2016 promise to ensure double-digit GDP is yet to be realized.
Of the 162 promises they made under economy, the NPP promised that they were going to abolish the 1% special import levy that was charged on imports, and especially within the ECOWAS region. This, they were able to abolish it in their first step. They also promised that they were going to abolish the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines, where those medicines produced domestically, they are going to abolish the VAT on it. They also did that in their first term and also abolished the 17.5% VAT and NHI on financial services. Again, they promised that to ensure more macroeconomic stability, they were going to pass what we call the fiscal responsibility law to guide government in its macroeconomic policies. They were able to pass the fiscal responsibility law. Again, they set up the fiscal council, gave them the task and they established them and started working. Now, they also promised that to ensure a sound banking system to accelerate economic growth, they were going to clean the financial sector, which they did, and has become a very major component of the country's debt. Despite the progress that they made in the economy section, what we found out was that their promise of achieving a double-digit GDP, they have not been able to do, or we are yet to see, as of today, we are yet to see a double-digit GDP in the country. They also promised that they were going to minimize the political patronage of state-sponsored microfinance institutions like Maslock. The way Maslock disburses its funds and allocates resources to, let's say, citizens, they were going to reduce the extent of political influences in the process. But as at now, we have not seen a clear competitive approach in delivering even Maslock funds to citizens.
The government was commended for delivering on promises around primary education, but scored 0 for the education subsector.
The collaboration with the private sector to provide Wi-Fi services has not been very effective. And even last month and this month, we've heard some CHAS members, the Coalition of Head of Assistants of Schools, said that in most of the schools that they know of, it is the cables that have been laid, but the Wi-Fi is yet to reach the school. When you look at the education subsector, the NPP performed very poorly here. They scored 0. And in terms of their collaboration with mission school to ensure much participation of the missions in these schools and enhance the development of the mission school. But in the area of primary education, due to the free senior high school policy and extending it to technical and vocational schools, they performed 100% improvement in terms of achieving that promise. So in terms of delivering primary education, which includes basic, senior high school and technical and vocational school, they performed very, very well.
On health, government was commended for effectively restructuring the National Health Insurance Scheme. The NPP has also fulfilled its promise to restore trainee nurses' allowance, but are yet to see the implementation of the Mental Health Fund.
Despite the progress they made in the health sector, we are yet to see a comprehensive plan for the safe disposal of biomedical waste. And now, during the COVID time, you saw more partnership in this area, but in terms of getting a comprehensive policy as a country to prosecute this, we are yet to see that. In also implementing a national epidemic response, we are yet to see a well-coordinated national epidemic response. But during the COVID-19 era, some temporary measures or some programs were put in place to arrest the situation, and also establishing trauma centers within all hospitals along our major highways.
According to the scorecard, a number of promises made under social services, which include the schools feeding program, women empowerment, and livelihood empowerment against poverty, have been fulfilled. The government, however, performed poorly in tackling floods. On corruption, here's what the NPP administration scored.
Now, under governance, corruption, and public accountability, the NPP promised that their main approach for tackling corruption in this country was to set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor. They were able to execute that one. The office was established, the Special Prosecutor has been appointed, and in this week we have seen him effectively in the media working and delivering reports. Despite this progress, we are yet to see the special website that will help corruption reporting under the Whistleblowers Act 2006 being effectively executed. We are yet to see that website being established.
In 2016, the Manifesto Final Scorecard scored the John Mahama administration 52.9%, but it says the NPP did 56.77% of its 2016 promises. Research consultant for Imani Africa, Dennis Asari, explains the difference.
So the overall score was 53%. So the NDC between 2012 to 2016 had achieved about almost 54% of their promises. But one thing that we need to put in context was that they had about 540 promises and the NPP has 510 promises. So we need to also put that in context. But by this same time in 2016, the NDC had done 54%. Now the NPP has done 56.77%. But let's put the number of promises also in context.
Meanwhile, the 2016 manifesto promises yet to be fulfilled by the NPP government includes the passage of Consumer Protection Law, the setup of Procurement Audit Unit at the Attorney General Department. The report says it is also yet to see an open and transparent recruitment into the security service. For Joy News, Matilda Gavi.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has launched a scathing attack on the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, challenging him to proceed with investigations on his alleged involvement in the Airbus scandal. The former president described Mr. Amidu as a coward for sneaking portions of the Airbus investigations into his Ejapa report in a bid to, according to the former president, equalize wrongdoing.
And they knew that Ejapa was going to be discussed today. Because he was a coward and he knew that they were going to discuss Ejapa, so put a paragraph on Airbus to equalize the discussion. I mean, what stupidity is this? You know, because you are investigating Ejapa, present a report on Ejapa. Why? Because you know Ejapa is going to be discussed. You've indicted the president's cousin as finance minister, and you are afraid that you are presenting only a report on Ejapa. So in the Ejapa report, put some other reports that balance the equation. I thought he was man enough. Come out. The point is, you say I'm the leader of a political party. I say, if you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. If you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. There's been a DPA, a deferred prosecution agreement. You're not a party to it. You don't know who are involved in it. They've identified some people in it. You don't have an authenticated agreement from SFO or from whoever is involved in it, and you say, I surmise that government official one is so. Somebody is so. On what legal basis are you proceeding? But you see, the thing is, his office is important because the investigation they did on Ejapa is not a surprise. I said it this morning. We knew already that it was vitiated with corruption. Everything that he has found out.
Let me take you now back to Parliament. Now, the Electoral Commission boss Jean Mensah and National Security Minister Albert Kandapa have been summoned to Parliament for questioning on preparations to ensure a fair and balance-free election on 7th December. Officials of the NCCE and NMC will also be appearing to respond to some questions. Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah Bonsu disclosed the plan to MPs today in Parliament. The Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, whose request last week has led to the invitation, is making fresh demands. He wants the police to give MPs the list of security personnel being employed to various constituencies. More of that coming up later in our subsequent bulletins. Now, he came to Joy FM in 2004 and wants to retire here at the Multimedia Group. Nicholas Ofori is one of this company's longest-serving drivers. In this report, celebrating some of our longest-serving staff as we mark 25 years, my colleague Justice Beatty shares the story of the man born in Asamankese, popularly known as Bishop.
As a driver, you come early morning, you check your car. Now we have the roster. We have JoyNews, we have Adom, we have production and business.
This is the start of a typical day for Nicholas Ofori, one of the drivers who have worked for the longest time with the Multimedia Group.
I was driving a taxi. I met one man at Asalamda, called Mr. Adakon. He told me he heard that Joy FM is looking for drivers. I told him, the man, hey, Joy FM, how can I apply Joy FM now? I said, oh, don't worry. If you are 1,000 people are looking for the job, and make sure they will take you. So I started Multimedia 2004.
Almost everyone here at Multimedia calls Nicholas Bishop. But how did he come by that name?
I was Assassination, and one bishop is a man called Bishop Ofori. So that the area, that time I'm in Form 2, Form 3, 86, 85 there. They call me bishop in that area. So one guy, when we grew up at Assassination, that is now is a truck driver. So he loaded from Assassination to Carnation, Accra. Yeah. So when you got to Carnation, and one policeman sits in Lances, and he couldn't find a policeman. So somebody told him, go to Joy FM, and they will help you. So the guy came here. Immediately he saw me sitting there in front of the office. He said, Bishop. So the people we are gathered there. Hey, you call you Bishop, and he came here. He said you are Ofori. So as the boys, they changed the Ofori term to Bishop.
Bishop has traveled the length and breadth of Ghana, transporting multimedia journalists on various assignments.
You don't know the time you close. Even by 5 o'clock you're supposed to close. Assignment will come. Driver, let's go. You go. You travel with Kwaku also prepare. You will reach Adanse from there. We are going and then the gearbox, our car. So the cameraman and the reporter left me. I spent 3 days in the town. Make sure we finish the car, everything make correct before I continue. Where that time I don't know anybody, but I spent 3 days.
Now in his late 40s, Bishop wants to retire here and looks forward to the rest of his work life at what he says is the best place to work, multimedia. As people see that you are working in multimedia, they feel that, oh, you are good company. Because of multimedia, like I'm telling you, I travel a lot in Ghana. And I know people, because people come here every day, interview, these things, programs. So the politicians, non-politicians, the professors, I know them. So maybe if I need something and I contact them, I get it fast. The prestige is what has kept Bishop here, and he hopes that the next phase of this company's journey will be bigger than what it is today. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Accra.
And that's the story of Bishop there. Well, let's talk about the United States of America. It is still not clear whether or not Donald Trump or Joe Biden will win the race for the White House, with ballot counting in a handful of crucial battleground states still underway. There are still hundreds of thousands of votes to be counted in several of the key battleground states after an unprecedented number of people cast mail-in ballots ahead of Election Day. President Trump has repeatedly suggested that mail-in voting could lead to an increase in fraud, although he has provided no evidence to back up this claim. Earlier today, he told his supporters, we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. In our crossover today, Mapito Sebidi has been finding out how this election will impact USA-Europe relations.
It means a lot for Germans in particular because the relationship between the United States and Germany has not been very good under President Donald Trump. The US and Germany have been historic allies for a very, very long time. And in fact, President Obama and Angela Merkel were many years ago also very close allies. But that changed when President Donald Trump came to the White House. And in fact, we have seen various problematic issues in the last few years, whether it is Donald Trump criticizing Germany because he believes Germany does not spend enough on defense, whether it is President Trump criticizing Germany because of Germany's trade surplus, whether it is Mr. Trump leaving international gatherings and international frameworks, something that for Germany it's particularly important when it comes to multilateralism. There are various issues where Germany and the United States simply do not see eye to to eye. It is also very clear when you see Chancellor Angela Merkel and Donald Trump that they also on a personal level do not have as much empathy, if you will, as, for example, Chancellor Merkel and former President Barack Obama. So for Germany, this is certainly a very important election. Many Germans would actually prefer Joe Biden to win this election. But if you ask politicians, what they have stressed is that irrespective of who wins, the US will remain a very important partner for Germany, and Germany will try obviously and work hand in hand with the United States when it comes to dealing with some of the very important issues worldwide.
Now, generally, what are the expectations?
There are obviously plenty of expectations. If you ask Germans, as I stressed, most, according to polls, would actually vote for Joe Biden. This is something that has been evident as well in the last few years. The fact that Germans haven't been able to get warm, if you will, with President Donald Trump, that there's a lot of criticism also coming from Germans toward the way in which the US president actually conducts his policies. So the tone, something being particularly important from a German perspective, yet at the same time there is also an understanding that the US remains a very important ally, even if Donald Trump remains in the White House. I'll just give you one concrete example: the environment. So obviously Donald Trump does not see eye to eye with Germany when it comes to the environment, protecting the environment. But at the same time, German officials have stressed that even if the United States leaves the Paris climate agreement, something that, by the way, has happened also to date, has come into force, Germany and the United States can still work hand in hand when it comes to protecting the environment and other issues. For example, if Germany works with mayors in the United States or on a regional or local level. So in other words, even though Donald Trump and Angela Merkel do not see eye to eye on a wide variety of issues, it is absolutely clear that Germany still believes that the United States is a very important ally, and I do not expect that that will change in the near future.
Now, whichever way it goes, does it have any impact on German-US relations?
It certainly does have an impact on US-German relations, and by the way, I also think it has an impact on US-Europe relations, and those are some of the issues that I have been mentioning. But it's also important to stress that some of the issues where the US under Donald Trump is particularly critical of Germany are not exclusive to Donald Trump. I was in Washington myself as a correspondent when the president was Barack Obama, and back then you could also hear from officials in that administration that they thought that Germany should pay more when it came to defense, to common defense spending. So this is not something that is exclusive to Donald Trump and exclusive to the current relationship between Trump and Angela Merkel. There are also plenty of issues that go beyond that, and that's why when you look to the future, irrespective of who wins, analysts point to the fact that maybe the tone could change. For example, if Joe Biden wins, but some of the issues will still remain. Some of the very problematic issues in the relationship will still be there, even if the White House changes in the next 4 years.
All right, now before we go, let's take a look at the COVID-19 situation and the new lockdowns imposed.
Germany started a new lockdown earlier this week, a new lockdown that will be in force until the end of the month. It has been described as a partial lockdown or a lockdown light, because the goal behind that lockdown is for schools and shops to remain open, but basically everything else to close, so bars, restaurants, museums, theaters, and so on. The reason for this lockdown light is the speed at which the coronavirus has been spreading in Germany in the last few weeks. I'll just give you one concrete example. Chancellor Merkel had said in September that she expected Germany to reach 19,200 cases a day by Christmas. Well, Germany already reached 19,000 cases at the end of October. So that gives you an idea of simply how fast the coronavirus is spreading and why it was necessary for German authorities to introduce these new restrictions.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thomas Spauer is a political correspondent with our partners, DW. The Pulse continues with Gifty and Apia.
Well, we're still waiting, and remember that each of the candidates, as President Donald Trump and Joe Biden, need 270 of the seats to be declared president as we speak now. We don't know who has that right now. By the way, media organizations have been putting out some figures. So let's take a look at what we have here so far. This is CNN. This is BBC. And BBC is putting those figures at 213 for Donald Trump so far, 224 for Joe Biden. But, well, President Donald Trump himself this morning, like we indicated earlier, has been saying that he's looking forward to going to the Supreme Court. He says that voting should stop. Will it stop? We don't know what is going to happen, but we'll keep our eyes on it to keep you updated. By the way, the president has been tweeting the past few hours. One of the tweets, he says, he tweeted this 1 hour ago. He said, how come every time they count mail-in ballot dumps, they are so devastating in their percentage and power of destruction? And then he goes on and on and on with that. Vice President Pence has also been tweeting. So is Joe Biden. Well, we'll bring you more as we go along. Well, I hope that has been a good show for you so far. It has been for me. You're always a great guest. Thank you. Let's do this again tomorrow. Remember, there is more news at myjoyonline.com if you do log on. Many thanks for your time. My name is Gifty and up here.